Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 13th annual Kingdom Hearts show. It's during times like these when people, fans and critics alike, gather their pitchforks and decide that their perspective on any and everything Kingdom Hearts related is either a balanced perspective and should be respected by all means, or is gospel taken from the golden sap of Tetsuya Nomura's tears when smelling the fat onion that is his saltiness of Versus 13. Jokes aside, let's talk about Kingdom Hearts 3. As I've mentioned many times before, I do in fact love Kingdom Hearts. It's easily one of, if not my favorite, single-player experience of a series of all time. Like many of its fans, I've had a connection to Kingdom Hearts since my elementary school days. Ah, yes, the times of running around the playground, imagining that I, myself, am a Sonic OC with a Keyblade in hand and my 6 shiny Pikachus. Those were a much more simpler time. This being said, I've taken a really I've taken a realistic approach with the series over the last year or so. I've tried looking at the series from a non-fan's perspective to try and see what it's like for people outside of the community since I've been in it for as long as I can remember. After all, if the goal of communities is trying to grow and to fit more people into it, it makes sense to put yourself in the shoes of people that you're trying to attract. At least I would tend to think so. I'm no salesman, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a cringy YouTuber that's studying for a philosophy major. It's things like these that truly matter in life. I'm gonna be honest, Kingdom Hearts 3 is an overall okay game. There's definitely things that the game could have done better, there's no denying that. However, the more that you think about its flaws, the more frustrating they do tend to get. This is true for anything though. If you constantly focus on the negative, then that's all you're going to be emphasizing on. Now that said, there should still be a clear distinction between constructive criticism and actual negativity. Just because someone has a critique about something, or maybe just doesn't even necessarily care or like one particular thing, that doesn't mean that the original project was bad by any means. In Kingdom Hearts 3's case though, and I say this as loosely as possible, it is arguably a mess. And I say this as someone who is a longtime fan. Sure, we all may have expected something different from the game, be it in gameplay, story, even the music, but I think that the popular vote is that some of the things that people just really wanted in this game were either worked on poorly for the final product, or just didn't appear at all. This being said and out of the way, this video is going to serve as sort of a review or my impressions of the game. Now, I don't typically review games like this. If you follow my channel or have seen any of my other videos, you know that I more so like analyzing games and discussing specific parts about them. Hardly do I ever give games individually some sort of score or put them on a single pedestal. Kingdom Hearts is something very special to me, so I wanted to do something special for its newest installment, as many other people have. Let's start with the tutorial. The tutorial, as poked at in Donkey's review, is similar to Xenoblade 2's. It's not necessarily long in length as it is in content. Kingdom Hearts 3 has a lot to offer with its gameplay. This is mostly due to the idea Square tried implementing with Keyblade transformations, forms, summons, now being dubbed as links, shot locks, attraction flow, flow motion, and then you have your regular abilities. That should be it, unless I'm forgetting something super obvious, so just let me know. About every time you enter a new area in the Olympus world for the first time, you'll be greeted with new information about these types of abilities, the environment, how to interact with the environment, and the enemies. It's bare bones for a tutorial, because it is a tutorial, after all. The introduction to the Olympus world is super cool as it recaps all the times Hades has tried to screw Hercules over in the last Kingdom Hearts games, except Birth by Sleep, for whatever reason. If I recall correctly, Hades kinda not possessed, but he possessed Zack to go after Terra because Terra wouldn't go after Hercules, and if Zack would have succeeded, then he would have sent Zack after Hercules. That was kind of the original intent, I think. But that aside, the coolest thing about the world, in my opinion, would be the environment. The environments for each and every Disney World you visit are going to be some of the strongest focal points in this game, although not all of them are great. Point being, Olympus is cool and all. As far as the lore and the story goes, Sora starts in Olympus because he's lost all of his powers after the events of Dream Drop Distance. A lot of fans like to hash on the fact that Sora starts at level 1 all over again for each and every game, but personally, I don't really get this nitpick. Do you expect to start a new Pokemon game with a level 50 starter just because you beat the previous Pokemon game? No, of course not. Pokemon may be a bad example since you are playing a completely different game with different Pokemon as a different character. But just look at something like Sonic the Hedgehog or something, I guess, for example. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you start the game, you start at level 1, because it's a square one. It doesn't really matter if you played the previous one or not, it's just how games fundamentally work. You start at level 1. Anyways, back to the point. So Sora is in Olympus to try and regain the powers that he lost in Dream Drop Distance from Kingdom Hearts 2, because his powers in Dream Drop Distance weren't the same for those in Kingdom Hearts 2, for both game development and lore reasons. Meanwhile, Lee, now dubbed as Axel again, for whatever reason, and Kairi are learning how to properly use the Keyblade. What really is a wasted and ruined opportunity here is not playing as Lee or Kairi for the actual tutorial. Like, yeah, you'd still start the game as Sora in Olympus, but all those little pop-ups that you would get about basic fundamentals of playing the game would be explained from Kairi and Lee's perspective. Things like Keyblade transformations would be super cool for Lee, as he could just summon his old chakrams. Shot locks or flow motion for Kairi. Well, maybe not flow motion, but you get the idea. Lots of people are also making a big deal about Kairi having the same personality traits as Plank from Ed, Edd and Eddy. To be honest, I don't really care. Kairi isn't really ever a character I had much interest in, but in retrospect, that's probably why people don't like her. The reason I don't care, it's kind of a continuum. People don't like her because I don't care, and I don't care because people don't like her. Anyways, yeah. The only way I could see this whole Kairi and Lee tutorial thing being bad, I guess, would be to the new fans who just kind of, play Kingdom Hearts 3 for the fun of it. Going from one character to another, all within 7 hours of play. It's interesting for a JRPG, but it's definitely foreign to the idea of the Kingdom Hearts campaign, which, again, new fans wouldn't be familiar with anyways, but hey, what do I know? In between every single Disney World, I believe at least, the player is greeted with a cutscene of the villains or the side characters, which in total is about 3 or 4 different perspectives. You have perspective 1, which is Sora, Donald, and Goofy, perspective 2, which is Riku and Mickey, perspective 3, which is the real Organization 13, and then perspective 4, which is Pete and Maleficent. And then, you have Yin Sid and stuff too, and Kairi and Lee, but I don't know, that could kind of go into nothing, I guess. Let me go ahead and tell you now, though, perspective 4 doesn't matter in the slightest, despite how much the games try and tell you that it does. If I'm counting correctly, Pete and Maleficent only appeared in the game a total of 3 times? Twice in... Wait, no. A total of 4 times. 3 times at Olympus, and then once more in the epilogue, I believe. Perspective 1, with Sora, Donald, and Goofy, is obviously how you're going to be spending most of the time throughout the game, and then you actually do get to play Perspective 2 twice as well. Perspective 3 is simply just side content of cutscenes explaining the villains, their air quotes motivations or whatever, and then I've already talked about Perspective 4, so yeah. Now we're moving on to the Disney Worlds individually in order of how I played them, or how I found them online, bit of both. So starting with Olympus, we've already talked a little bit about that, so the toy box. I think the Disney characters' interactions to the overarching plot in this world is by far the best, with Buzz being, skeptical of Sora, Woody not giving a flying about Xehanort's edginess. It's just really great and humorous. My only real complaint is that Woody's voice actor is super close to sounding like Tom Hanks, but it's just there's a peak in every single one of his sentences that just reminds me that he's not Tom Hanks. If you guys have played it or heard it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. I did absolutely love, though, how Rex kind of breaks the fourth wall about Sora being a Final Fantasy character. It's just pretty ironic and cool from a fan's perspective, especially while you're playing the game. The toy box area itself is nice. Andy's house is my favorite area out of the 2 for this world, because the toy store just kind of seems like a maze. Now, I know that each little outlet in the store has their own labels and stuff, the video game section, the toys section, the baby section, etc. But those areas I only really went to for the initial playthrough, and I never really kept track of what direction I was going in. I just kind of headed forward. I can't seem to find them again because of this, and on one hand, I guess that's a good thing because it adds for a lot of room of gameplay, but on another, it's so vast that I don't really want to leave my comfort zone, but that's Toy Box. Kingdom of Corona. So the Tangled World also is one of my favorites in terms of a Disney perspective. I thought the relationship between Mother Gothel and Marluxia was absolutely great, opposed to how Frozen is represented later, but we'll talk about that later. Point being, the Tangled World is great. Flynn Rider is as funny as can be. He's not as funny or comical as the movie version of him, but that's to be expected from Kingdom Hearts. I see a lot of nitpicks about how Kingdom Hearts did a shot-for-shot copy of Tangled's Best Day Ever scene, but personally, I liked it a lot. That's one of, if not my favorite scenes from the entire movie, and I didn't feel as if the Tangled movie itself was cheated or demeaned because the Kingdom Hearts version looked worse, or just because it had Sora, Donald, and Goofy in it. I mean, after all, it's Kingdom Hearts, they do this all the time. They always do stuff like this, but granted, it is more noticeable here, just because it is a shot-by-shot rendition. Corona's environment is super nice, the marsh area, the tower itself, the city, it's all just really good. I just personally wish that the world, not this world in particular, but all the worlds, but I'm going to be talking about this world in particular, I just really wish that this world kind of had more to offer outside of Lucky Emblems, but that's, again, something that we may or may not discuss later. Now for Monstropolis. So like the Toy Box world, I really liked the Disney characters' interactions to the overarching plot here. Having Sora, Donald, and Goofy all at each other's throats for the whole monster gag thing at the beginning of the world was pretty cool, in my opinion. Cheesy and unnecessary, but it's a fun little moment that the characters genuinely would have had in any other game. The reaction to Sully and Mike with Boo too, I think, was super cool and nice. Almost like a complete 180 of the Toy Box's approach for it with Woody and Buzz. Yeah. For the area itself, I feel like the actual Monstropolis map was kind of weak. The only good part about the world, in my opinion, is the part with the factory where you can go outside, do the whole freefall thing. That whole long stretch where of the map, where you're outside, but, you're still at the factory is by far, I think, the only thing that the world really has going for it. Just sad considering the whole door to another world mechanic that the movie has. They sort of touch upon that whole door mechanic thing with Mike explaining where Boo came from and then the whole scene with Vanitas, but it doesn't really have a whole lot of depth as it could have. I mean, it did make for a funny scene, with Vanitas and all, but they could have done more with it. Like, for example, Mikey or Sully being, like Sora's monster, or they know Sora, or something like that. That just would have been cool. Similar to, it's not like Kingdom Hearts has never done that before. Like, they did that with Santa Claus in Kingdom Hearts 2. Santa Claus from The Nightmare Before Christmas knew Sora. I mean, it's not the only time, too, that the Disney characters were, like, self-aware of the whole lore around them. Like, King Triton from Kingdom Hearts 1 knew about the Keyblade and everything else. Like, him knowing about the Keyblade isn't significant, despite the fact that the game wants you to think that it's significant. And it's just, moments like that where they could kind of do cool stuff with it, but they just never do. But moving on. So next we have Arendelle. I hated this world. I felt like it was too long, none of the areas remotely interested me, you can only actually have your party member in certain area and locations. The interaction between Larxene and any of the Frozen characters is little to none, it's just really poor. Toy Box and Monstropolis both take place in continuation of the movies. The Kingdom of Corona world literally has Sora green screen in over the events of the movies, but at least he has a relationship with Flynn and Rapunzel. Like when he first enters the world and has that whole, yeah. In the Frozen world, Sora just runs into the Frozen cast like twice out of convenience, gets blown off the mountain twice, and then boom, that's your Disney interaction. The lack of communication between Sora and these Disney characters is kind of poked fun at, towards the end of the world, when Sora assumes that Anna and Kristoff are dating, so at least it's self-aware, but that's not really an excuse. They just could have done better. Now, Hank is kind of like a plank of a villain. The only redeeming thing about this world, in my opinion, is the super cool boss fight, which I feel is totally wasted. Next, we have the 100 Acre Woods, and I did not do a single thing in this world except collect the lucky emblems. So, looking at the Caribbean, whichever you propose, I'm seeing a lot of mixed feelings about this world. I've seen some people praise it for being one of, if not the best designed worlds in all of Kingdom Hearts history, and then I'm seeing people call it an absolute train wreck. But here's kind of what I think. I think the world itself is a love letter to players who enjoy exploring every nook and cranny possible. Now, as someone who's tried to 100% games like Breath of the Wild for months and ultimately just gave up, the Pirates world is something I easily fell in love with. The plot of the world, on the other hand, is undoubtedly weird. I've never seen any of the Pirate of the Caribbean movies, so I had no idea where this plot was heading. To my assumption, it's that Jack made a deal with Davy Jones. He fell out of the deal, he was sent to the pirate equivalent of Limbo, came back as a crab, then died, and then came back to life again, just not as a crab. So, I will say, watching the cutscenes makes me wish I would go see the movies. I just don't personally know if the pirate movies are worth watching. I kind of took to Twitter a while back and asked some people, and I was told that 1, 2, and 3 were good, 4 was iffy, and 5 was just bad, so just let me know what you guys all think. I mean, I need something to do to waste my time. This aside, I absolutely do love the darker tone towards the end of the world, and I'll, not spoil that for you guys, because it's a really cool moment with Sora, but I have zero clue, zero clue as to why Luxord and Jack's relationship wasn't developed just a little bit more, just like one more cutscene. The comedy that the two have is just as good, if not better, than the toy boxes. Even Monstropolis too. Like, it could have easily been better with just like one more cutscene of Luxord, egging on, harassing Jack. It would have been great. I mean, it's not something that the series shies away from. I mean, they did it with Zaldan and Beast Castle, which is one of, if not the best Disney to original cast relationships that I feel that they have. So, yeah, could have been better. It's not bad by any means, but just one more cutscene of him, just messing with Jack would have been great. San Francisco. This world left me rather disappointed. The rail minigame where you jump through the hoops and all was fun, but the Baymax content was not at all, and it absolutely sucked how the Dark Baymax fight was only doable with Baymax in the air. It would have been much more appreciated had the boss taken place with Dark Baymax flying around attacking you, and then, you can attack him with things like Shotlock, or you can block, his attacks when he either attacks you from afar, or he, comes in close and attacks, you block, and then you counterattack, and then after you deal enough damage, you switch to Baymax, and then you fight in the air for a little bit, but no, it's just Baymax in the air all around. The relationship between Disney and the overarching plot is kind of iffy here for me, mostly because of the confusion between which version of Riku this was, and yeah, it really just is lackluster, especially after the Pirates world, so yeah. Anyway, so in order, this is how I would rate each world from worst to best. 100 Acre Woods, Arendelle, San Francisco, and Monstropolis are both tied. Olympus, Toy Box, the Caribbean, and Kingdom of Corona. The Keyblade Graveyard is fine, I guess. I mean, it would be appreciated if you could, chat with the Birth by Sleep and Days trio in between saving them and then doing the final boss. Unless you can and I just missed it. But, yeah. Then Twilight Town is super lackluster as well. I only ever found myself going back because it was an original world, and I felt like and I felt like going there out of comfort and nostalgia, and nothing else. I didn't care for the cooking, I didn't care for doing those minigames. I only went there because it was a hub world. Now let's talk about gameplay. So for this part of the video, I'm going to be talking about Sora's abilities more than I am about he interacts with each world with his abilities, since I kind of already talked about that a minute ago. So, yeah. There was a lot of debate before the game came out about its playstyle. For those of you who didn't know, Kingdom Hearts 3 was developed by Square Enix's Osaka team. Osaka is also responsible for Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance, which are known for their bad balancing and wacky physics engine. Conveniently enough, they're also the only two side games that I would say are must-plays to understand the story aside from Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, but oh well. After beating the game and toying around with the post-game battle gates and all, I can honestly say that the game feels better than it looks. It looks like each attack floats one after the other with no substance of satisfaction per hit, but it feels like there is. It has the feel of Kingdom Hearts 2 with less flash, but the look of Birth by Sleep and maybe mixed in with Dream Drop I don't know, I suppose a better hybrid would be Kingdom Hearts 2 and Dream Drop Distance, but whatever. One thing I honestly did not expect to make it to the final product would be the attraction flow commands. Considering that they were fitting, Keyblade transformations tied with the forms, links, shot locks, and flow motion, I was expecting attraction flow to get swept under the rug. Personally, I don't think removing them would have improved or enhanced the game's overall stats and status by much, aside from, accidentally using them when trying to open a chest or speak with an NPC. That itself, to be perfectly honest, is kind of more of a player issue than it is a game issue, because you can wait out the timer, but regardless of this, no excuse, there should be an option to turn these abilities off. They aren't forced by any means, but they do constantly keep making themselves aware to you by showing up on the screen with a timer. And the thing with a timer is that it indicates a rush factor of adrenaline for the player. So unless you just, honest to God, could not care less about those triangle buttons, then you may feel less inclined to use them since it won't benefit you in the long run. In previous games that have flashy moves like this, such as Kingdom Hearts 2 with Drive Forms, they were always available, yet they were either perfectly balanced or were hidden for the player to abuse as they progress throughout the game. Never before have they been here in the open just begging you to use them. Really, I cannot think of a reason why they wouldn't allow the player to turn them off. It would not only fix the issues, like opening up chests or talking to NPCs, but it would help the player keep themselves organized for whatever style of playthrough they're doing. For example, there genuinely are people who have played Kingdom Hearts 2 without using a single reaction command or drive form, but these types of play just aren't encouraged with Kingdom Hearts 3 at all. While that doesn't affect casual players, more hardcore players are limited to what they actually want to do with the game. They don't have a challenge. It's sad. Speaking of difficulty, let's now talk about the game's difficulty. This was the first time ever I've played a Kingdom Hearts game on Proud Mode, and Proud Mode is the equivalent of hard. I died to the Demon Tide in Twilight Town 3 times, the Frozen Wolf boss 3 times, and all of the late game organization members once. Each time I died, it was either because I had a bad build of equipment or because I used the wrong command for a certain scenario. Sure, these things aren't major in the grand scheme of things, but with Kingdom Hearts 3, it's really all the little things that just constantly add up that makes it an iffy game. The Kingdom Hearts series is known to have remixes of their main series games called Final Mixes, and I've made a whole video talking about the possibility of a Kingdom Hearts 3 Final Mix, so be sure to go watch that. But in those remastered versions was an even harder difficulty known as Critical Mode. This was basically Hard 2.0 or Super Hard. Critical Mode was a step higher than Proud, as I explained, and now I probably won't ever play Critical Mode. I barely dipped my toes into Proud, and people are telling me how baby it was, but it's options like Critical Mode that show how much this game could have been improved upon. In terms of gameplay, I think that's about all I have to say. If I've missed anything that you want my opinions on, just be sure to let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to comment and reply, and yada yada yada. Now for the story, and I got a bit to talk about here. In short, the story is exactly what I thought it would be. I thought it would be somewhat intriguing until about halfway through the Disney Worlds, then I thought it would get boring and then get super good again, only for the end to be kinda decent for a Kingdom Hearts game. I don't say that to mean that it's bad by any means, it's just what I expected. I didn't expect a cinematic thriller conclusion to the Xehanort saga, I expected something that felt rushed. I kid you not, like 2 days before the release of the game, I was actually getting stomach sick because I was worried about how bad this game might actually be. If you're this far into the video and you aren't expecting spoilers, then I don't know what you were expecting because it is spoiler time. I'm basically just going to nitpick about Kingdom Hearts 3's story dialogue and whatnot that kind of stuck out to me. The good, the bad, the gad, the booed, all of it. We're going straight in, fellas. Alright, so let's talk with the power of Waken. Before I continue, I'm not going to cover every single nook and cranny of crappiness with the game's story. I'm not going to praise everything that was good, just because I do not have the time nor the willpower to actually do so. Again, if you want my thoughts on any specific instance in the series or even in the game, just let me know in the comments below and I'll kind of give my take on it. And then lastly, not everybody is a Kingdom Hearts master. I mean, I know some things about the story that you don't, and you know some things about the story that I don't. So, I mean, I would love it if you guys would correct me. Just provide sources. So starting with the power of waking. The power of waking is an example of what not to do for writing stories. Now, as a senior in high school, I've only written a handful of stories. Most of them were short stories required for schooling, but the ones that I actually were passionate about are the ones that I did off record. I have a few other writer friends too, and there are just a few unspoken rules about writing that I think anyone working for a AAA title-making company should know. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm a better writer than Nomura or anything, because, like, again, I'm only a senior in high school. What I am going to say, though, in a world where we have stories like Persona 5, The World Ends With You, Octopath Traveler, and more, I can't help but look at Kingdom Hearts 3 and just laugh. I mean, part of that's kind of the point, but all of these previous examples of games have stories that are aware of themselves in a sense that they aren't constantly making rules just to break them. This is what Kingdom Hearts, as an entire series, is known for, and it definitely shows in Kingdom Hearts 3. Is this a horrible thing? Not really. Is it bad? Yeah. Now, the power of waking isn't the only thing that Kingdom Hearts has thrown in, changed, thrown out again, and whatever, but it's such a huge plot device in Kingdom Hearts 3 that even dedicated fanboys, people who have been on their high horses for years about the series, realize how stupid it is. The whole deal with the whole power of waking is that once Sora and Riku unlocked the 7 sleeping keyholes in Dream Drop Distance, they would gain the power of waking to wake up a person's sleeping/damaged heart. As it turns out, throughout the entirety of the game, Riku was inside Sora's dream the whole time! But by whatever reason, since Sora unlocked the keyholes, that therefore by definition meant that Riku also had the same power. So Riku goes in, saves Sora from Xehanort, but because Sora was so easily manipulated by Xehanort, he had lost the power of waking deep inside him. Which is the plot to Kingdom Hearts 3, ladies and gentlemen. Or at least the first 70% of it. The power of waking is something only mentioned a few times in Dream Drop Distance, probably because the game would rather have you focus on time travel, the main character's clothes, and not Axel. In Kingdom Hearts 3, whenever it's mentioned, it's like it's always used in different contexts. I'm going to be perfectly honest here, I think that the power of waking was something handled better in Dream Drop Distance than it was in Kingdom Hearts 3. Part of that may be because Dream Drop Distance just had a lot going on and couldn't really focus hands down on the power of waking, but it could be because, too, that Kingdom Hearts 3 just kind of denies whatever Dream Drop had made it out to be and then rolls with its own thing. Now talking about Xehanort. Xehanort had one job, and and that was to be evil. Now, I made a video about Xehanort as a character a few weeks back, before the game released, actually, and I stated that one of my biggest pet peeves of Kingdom Hearts 3 would be if they made Xehanort out to be some sort of a puppet of a greater villain. Well, guess what, guys? Xehanort not only ended up being a puppet for a greater villain, but the greater villain was the eat your heart out, you filthy mama of a man, Lushu. I honestly can't tell you what I would have hated worse. Xehanort being directly used by the bigger bad villain, or Xehanort being indirectly used by the bigger bad villain. I think him being used by a bigger bad villain in and of itself is just screwed up, but hey, senior high schooler, so what do I know? Every time I think about Kingdom Hearts 3's ending, how Xehanort just accepts defeat after Ericus is like, you're kinda lost, man, but good try, I then think about the fact that he precisely had to formulate a plan to manipulate multiple individuals, possess them, relearn the studies of the heart, becoming both a heartless and a nobody, traveling back in time, forming two organizations, and, doing all this. Like, what part of a mastermind technician says, yeah, I'll just accept defeat? I mean, sure, it can be seen as honorable, as a tactician, as someone who plays the game to play the game. Like, it's honorable to, accept when you're defeated. But what isn't honorable is writing a villain like this and then demeaning their character at the very end. I'm not mad at Xehanort, I'm mad at Nomura. However, I did like his line about Ericus being a fox, but that's it. As I mentioned a minute ago with Lushu, had possessing Xigbar and all, there's a few things that we need to discuss now. Unchained Key, Union Cross, whatever it's called, it's a dumb story. It gets dumber the more it goes on. Trust me, if you've never seen anything of it, if you've never played of it, it gets dumber the more it goes on. At first, I liked the idea of a spin-off title explaining the Keyblade War from a player-by-player overall interactive experience. It was cool and it was nice. The cameo that it had in Kingdom Hearts 3 was super cool too. What I absolutely hate about this dumb mobile game is the fact that Nomura continues to use it for purposes other than the Keyblade War. The explanation that she proposes for the Keyblade War, by the way, defies what it originally was explained as by both Kairi's grandmother and I believe even Xehanort himself. Up until Chi's release, the Keyblade Wars, it's been described as this war between people who were greedy and fought over the light of Kingdom Hearts and wanted to make it their own. However, Chi decides to practically copy pasta the plot of Avatar: The Last Airbender and the whole tribe deal, with these different tribes that live in harmony until one day one tribe decides that it wants to, wage war and stuff. Sounds easy, right? I mean, good, okay, but Chi tries super hard to be its own thing by making it seem like there's no actual evil tribe, when during the Keyblade War itself, during the crappy rendered cutscene because it's a dumb mobile game, Aced is talking about how he's going to do this and how he's going to rule that. I mean, the man's clearly the traitor. Even Ira calls him out on it, in that same scene, when, they're clashing Keyblades and all. This is just another example of Kingdom Hearts jerking you around with one concept, taking it out, changing it, and then throwing it back completely different later. I mean, it's like if you throw pants in the washing machine, and then you get socks out instead. Anyways, so since Xehanort is dead, the prophecy of the Keyblade War 2.0 is finished, and so Lushu can finally come out of hiding and summon the previous foretellers, who, for whatever reason, seemingly failed their mission. Because, if you watch the back cover movie, they do pretty much do their missions. It's every action they make is based on what their mission was. So, the only one supposedly who has accomplished their mission would be Ava, who created the Dandelion group. Now, all of the Union leaders that Lushu summons seemingly died in war with one another, So I'm just a bit confused about why they're okay with Luciu summoning them back to fulfill a new role. Like, the man to your left in the bear costume literally waged a war that caused all of this to happen. He's standing right there. And then the man that you all are circling around is clearly a sociopath who's playing God in the position of Lucifer. Like Envy, Ira, maybe even Gula? Don't you guys, care? The reveal of Xigbar being Luciu in and of itself is a cool reveal because it does add more depth to Luciu at the cost of taking it away from Xigbar. That's the only issue I have with the reveal itself. Everything else that, I've spouted a minute ago or whatever was relevant steam, but moving on. One last thing before we move on to the secret movie, though. According to the secret reports in Kingdom Hearts 3, the way on how Luciu's possession works is similar to how Xehanort possessed Terra, except Luciu would do it repeatedly. Luciu would train an individual until he passed the no-name Keyblade down to them. Then Luciu would possess another individual and become an apprentice under the person he originally passed the Keyblade down to. Then again, he would pass the Keyblade down to another person, and then he would possess the person after. So basically, Luciu has possessed every other person who's ever used the no-name Keyblade. The person who trained Ericus and Xehanort was Luciu. The person that Xehanort trained was Luciu. The video screen here, like what you all are looking at, should have some sort of a diagram. But dude, I don't even know. Alright, so the secret movie, and then we'll pretty much be done. All I'm gonna say is that because Sora disappears, the whole Palpu Fruit nostalgia of lore means absolutely nothing. Like our hearts, our destinies are intertwined, we'll forever be together. It means absolutely nothing. The World Ends With You Shibuya is super, super cool though, except how, Sora, mysteriously appeared there. Whoa! At the end of Dream Drop Distance, he just visited Traverse Town to go see the Dream Eaters. I don't understand why he couldn't just go visit Shibuya. Why does there always have to be he magically disappeared? Whoa, there's something bigger going on. Whoa! He should have just gone and visited. Literally, like he did Traverse Town at the end of Dream Drop Distance. That's it. Now, Riku disappearing at some point in time and ending up in Verum Rex is very interesting. I'm just going to say that. Verum Rex is the Kingdom Hearts take on Final Fantasy Versus 13, which was the officially branded name of Final Fantasy 15 until it underwent a new development. Now, I'm no huge Final Fantasy guy. I've only played a few of them, and I've only completed one, meaning I've only completed one game, not Final Fantasy 1. It was one game. It was 15. I beat 15, and that was it. My buddy Dean Weiss has made countless videos talking about the development of Final Fantasy 15, how Versus 13 kind of fits into all that. So by all means, go watch his videos. They're great. So yeah, Dean, if you're watching, there's a little thing for you. Please give the wife back. Please. It's going to be interesting to see if Verum Rex is going to maintain Verum Rex, or if Verum Rex is really just, Final Fantasy 15, but with a Kingdom Hearts identity until they can kind of show off or confirm stuff later. Basically what I mean by this is Kingdom Hearts has now made Verum Rex. So if Verum Rex is going... okay. The main confusion here is if Verum Rex is actually going to be its own thing, Verum Rex, or if it's actually Final Fantasy 15 in disguise. The character Yozora that we see, is that really Yozora, or is that just a other rendered version of Noctis? So, the only reason I would think that it's another version rendered of Noctis, for example, is just because they don't want to show off Final Fantasy 15 within Kingdom Hearts 4 plus promotion now, especially when they're busy with other things. So, I don't know. I guess just think of the whole secret movie to Kingdom Hearts 1? Kingdom Hearts 1, I think it's the secret movie of Kingdom Hearts 1, where it has Roxas and Riku fighting. Think of that, but, different. So some last points here, and then we'll be done. I believe that the secret movie points to a new game and not any sort of DLC pack. If it were a DLC pack, then the secret movie in and of itself would become irrelevant within 2 years, and the secret endings are always normally meant to, scatter the community for long periods of time to kind of, give us vague hints about the next game rather than, the next DLC. I mean, granted, Kingdom Hearts hasn't had DLC before, but time will tell. If a final mixed DLC pack is going to happen, which I believe it will at some point, it will include Critical Mode, because base game didn't have that. The exclusive Keyblades that were limited per console, and maybe non-canon secret bosses, similar to the Dado battles from Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, although I don't think it'll be as good as the Data battles, and I'm not, using it for comparison, I'm just using it as an example. I mean, another thing which I think that they should add as far as bosses go would be like Sephiroth, because for whatever reason, he wasn't in 3, but they're gonna add him for DLC, please! All in all, I enjoyed Kingdom Hearts 3. I think, and will continue to think, that it is a mess, but it's a suitable mess that Kingdom Hearts is more recent than not tended to be. I plan on getting future games just because I'm a diehard fan, but will continue to totally remain critical for the games moving forward. This being said, I give Kingdom Hearts 3 a 6 out of 10, and the Xehanort Saga as a whole a 7.5 fragmentary passage over days, sleep by birth, coded out of 10.